Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're doing well. So in this video, we're going to be running through how to start a temporary or contract recruitment or staffing agency. I'm going to be going through what exactly you need to have because it's slightly different from a permanent agency, how to go about winning clients, getting candidates, and basically the whole system you're going to need. So I'll talk you through everything now. It's going to be a bit of a long video. I'll try and keep it as short as possible without rambling on. But this is by far one of the most profitable businesses in recruitment as a whole. So I've gone through this on a previous video for a permanent agency. The link to the video is in the description or the top right. But in terms of what you need, in the UK, you need to register a business, and that will cost you £20. You'll have to have a business bank account, a website you can make from Wix, a domain name, obviously your .com or .co.uk, logo, sort of branding. You can either do yourself on Canva or Fiverr. $10 might cost you 25 depending on how fancy you want to go. You're going to need a business email, which will cost you £5-10 a month. I would recommend probably Gmail or Hotmail is the only two I'd recommend, but it's up to you if you have personal preference. Mobile phone you can use. I personally use my mobile phone more so than ever. You're going to need a VoIP, so you may need a VoIP at some point, which is a voice over internet protocol. It works on your phone. You can get an office number. You're going to need a LinkedIn page as well. So the LinkedIn page will serve as like marketing for your business, as well as reaching out to candidates and clients, and vice versa, them reaching out to you at some point. Indeed is a very good platform. It's free to post jobs. You can also CV search on there. You're going to need a lead tool like Lead Leaper, etc. Check out my other videos. I'll go through all of this. I don't want to ramble on too much about what you need. Now, this is what's different from a permanent agency. These are what I would recommend to get at a start. By all means, seek legal advice, go to an accountant and ask exactly what you need. But this will get you started. So for insurance, it's a legal requirement to have employee liability insurance. You're going to need other insurance as well. Go to a specialist recruiter, insurer, because if you go to the normal insurers, they won't know too much about it, and they tend to charge a lot more as well, even though it's a regulated sector. Now you're going to need an umbrella company, and I'll explain why. Basically, the umbrella company is going to pay the candidates, so you're not in arrears to pay the candidates, because you can have a massive bill before you even get paid. I would recommend MyPay. You could also look at Sonovate as well, but MyPay are probably the most popular. Big and small companies use them. They take about 4 to 6%, depending on how much business you send them. You might even get it much lower as well. Now, in terms of compliance, some sectors will need some compliance checks. For example, I'm in healthcare. Everything needs to be DBS checked if it's temp. Yeah, everyone has to be background checked. Now, in some sectors like finance, there's even some background checks you have to do. Now, you're going to have to be carrying out these checks, but it depends on your sector. I've even done recruitment in the US where there was some secret security clearance, or I can't remember the exact name, but there's other clearances and compliance around that. Now I would recommend getting an accountant from the first offset, as soon as money starts rolling in. There's plenty of accountants. Some of them specialize in temporary work as well, working with temporary recruiters. I know my accountant has a lot of recruitment agencies that are just temp. I think I'm one of the only perms, in fact. So going back to what software you need, Zero, QuickBooks, you might need that to keep track of everything. So that's pretty much the setup infrastructure. You might want to add a few more things. So explaining temporary recruitment, how does it work? How do you get paid? Now I want to start by saying temporary recruitment makes up over 80% of all the revenue spent. So with all the money being spent on recruitment by companies paying agencies, 80% of that is all temp and contract. So most of the money, 8 out of 10, pounds go over to temporary agencies. It's also more specialist as well, and it's more local based. So you can really build a brand and a name for yourself. It's hard on permanently. One day I'm recruiting in Nottingham, the next day I'm recruiting in London or making placements. So it's much more difficult. And locally, you can attract more staff. You can put adverts locally. You can grow better and build a brand. It's easier. If you look at all the big agencies, they are actually branded on their temporary side rather than their permanent side. So in terms of how you get paid, a simple analogy, and these are just, figures plucked out of thin air. There's two types. So there's contract and there's temporary. There's also temp to perm, but I'm not going to cover that. And there's also, a few other variations of this. But these are the two most popular. 99% will be along these lines. So there's a contract. So a contract is a fixed duration. We need a network engineer for 6 months because we've got a big project. We're building a data center and we're going to need him for 6 months. We're willing to pay X amount per day. Can you find us someone? And you get paid sometimes hourly, sometimes it's per day. So they might get £100 per day, and you'll take £20 profit. You'll manage the candidate. Basically, it's a really, really good system once you have it. If you can win a lot of this business, you end up making a lot of cash. Because if you think about it, some positions are I remember I had finance consultants and they were really experts. They had like 40 years banking experience. One of them was an acquisition and mergers. I'll tell you very quickly. She worked for Exxon Mobil, and well, I can't remember the name, but she helped with the merger and acquisition on that. So she was part of their legal team. There was 8 people in there, and she's paid through that company I was recruiting for £1,000 a day. She was paid, and I was getting 250, and she took 270. Oh, sorry, I got 250, and then she got £750 off that on a day rate. So that was a really, really profitable. She worked once a week, but it wasn't massive, but she got paid off of that. And going on to that, it can be really lucrative because if you've got people out on 6-month contract, all you have to do is build it up and you can relax. These people tend to be more professional on their job type of thing. Now, on the volume side, on the temp and the hourly side, the workers are paid per hour. So think of, a warehouse worker who's paid £10 an hour. You charge the client £13, you pay the worker, and all your costs are deducted. Now, you must remember there are costs. So it looks like a £3 margin, but net profit isn't £3. So there's holiday pay, pension pay, national insurance, all those stuff you have to pay, your overheads, your software, your compliance, your time. You have to factor that in. Now, temporary recruitment can be a real margin squeeze and doesn't really excite me. It's very messy. And there's some things I need to obviously warn you about. This is more so, temporary recruitment is more so a 7-day-a-week job, 5-day-a-week job, more time consuming, but highly profitable if you get it right. Yeah. You can't scale a permanent business by yourself, even with workers, to a certain level. So in terms of contract pay, how it works on the pay side, the client either pays the worker directly. So they'll just pay the worker £100 and they'll pay you £20. Yeah, per day. They'll just set it up. You might invoice them monthly or quarterly, and they might pay the worker weekly. Just depends on the scenario and the agreement you have. What I tend to do is I drop the rate. So I save them a bit of cash. So that £20, I might make £12.50 if they pay me directly and they sort the pay with the worker. Because that's perfect. I'm just getting profit from that, from nothing. Most clients will say yes. Most of them actually say yes. The client can actually pay the worker. However, sometimes the client will just say, I'll send you the £120. You pay the worker, you sort it out. Yeah, you deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. But to 9 times out of 10, they'll be willing to. So it's up to you in the agreement. With the hourly pay, typically you have an umbrella company. So the umbrella company, like we mentioned my pay earlier, if the worker works Monday to Friday and they work 40 hours, they expect to get paid on Friday. The client will pay you a week or two later. So you have to put out of your own pocket to pay that worker. The client might not pay you in the end. They might disappear. They might go bankrupt. They might delay payment and there's another 2 weeks of pay. So you're just spending left, right and centre. That gets really problematic if there's 30 workers and you've all got to pay them £500 weekly wages. It's difficult. So we bring in umbrella companies. What they do is they take a percentage. So they'll pay the worker, yeah, and they'll also give you all the paperwork. So you sign up the client, you sign up the candidate through their contract. And once that's done, they pay the worker. When the client pays them, they don't pay you. The umbrella company then takes their cut and then sends you the profits after that. So I hope that explains it as a whole. In terms of niche, I would suggest looking at things where, just keep in the back of your mind, you may have worked temporary roles. What type of roles are high in demand, need a lot of workers, or a short period of time, like I mentioned data centers earlier. Building a data center, you're going to need staff only to build it, nothing else. They can go after that. So it's project based, or there's always a high volume of workers. Think of a chicken factory at Christmas time, or a turkey factory or turkey farm. You're going to need workers for that. So it's short periods, hence the name temporary recruitment. But think of hourly warehouse drivers, care workers, contract, you know, uh, construction workers. Catering is also a very good one to look at. But there's various little niches. Healthcare could be such a large amount. Pretty much every staff will have temporary variations of a permanent role. Also on contract, we look at like IT as a whole. Project managers is vast in so many sectors. There's finance and banking, construction again, and don't overlook education. Sometimes education is daily or hourly, it depends. But don't pick the wrong niche. Don't try and recruit where there's nothing in there. You'll just waste your time. Just go on there and see how many agencies are recruiting temporary staff. Have a look on Indeed or job boards, and you'll get the idea. If you have any doubts, comment below. But in terms of what what works for you, in terms of, you have to think, do I want to do high volume? Because if you get this up to, let's say you're making, just for argument's sake, £1 per hour and you've got 100 staff, you're making £100 per hour. Do you want that volume work? Or would you rather have 10 guys and you're making £10 an hour? It's up to you what works for you. Sometimes you might clock a warehouse. I know someone that has, from one client, 250 staff. Yeah, warehouse workers. One client. So he's making a killing off of that on the warehouse side. Yeah, and it's a big PLC company, like a household name. So he makes a killing off that. But excuse me, if you want to go down to like the driver side, you can get a big contract. The money is here, man. Like, in my opinion, contract is really good, works really well, good life balance, work life balance. But anyway, going on to clients, it's important to mention that cold calling works better. On the permanent side, it doesn't work as well, but I think it's all about relationships. It's all about being available, and chucking out an email marketing campaign wouldn't hurt. But I would go along the lines of not so much blasting out emails to people advertising jobs. Excuse me. I would look at companies in the local area that are just there. So think of hotels. Let's say we want to there's 400 hotels within a 20-mile radius of me. And what I want to do is email all of them, and I'll find excuse me, I've had a chest infection, but I will find all the hotel managers' email address and I would send them out. If you need temporary staff, let me know. We can help you. We staff all the hotels locally. And keep that on a drip feed campaign going out all the time. It's all about timing with temporary recruitment. It's not about, oh, we don't need anyone, we're fully staffed. But as soon as they need someone, there's a gap in the workforce, they will need you. They'll think of your name, your email, as long as you don't come across too shabby. You can, alternatively, if you don't want to do that, you can pay a lead source of $5 on Upwork to source 100 leads, and they'll find the email addresses you want. You can do this also to test the sectors if you're not sure what works. It's more difficult to win business, but when you do, it's the accounts tend to be more profitable and long term as well. You might get the odd care home that says, yeah, I just need, Saturday covered, and you might just put someone in and find them a job and help them make extra money. Cool, fine, you can do that. But pitching candidates in is going to be key. So if you cold call, just say like, look, I'm working with, I'm a temporary agency. We've just had 4 or 5 people end their contract. Just wondered if you are currently looking for staff. These are proven ladies and gents to me, so would you be interested in going there? And they'll say, yeah, no, we're fully staffed, blah blah blah. Oh, do you ever use agencies? Should I call you back at another time? You could just pitch it from there very softly and just cold call and ask, even if you don't have the candidates. That's pretty much the in. And you could just build a roadmap. They might say, yeah, call back on the weekend, or the manager's not in, or call back another time. That's fine. But it is right place, right time. And it's very fast paced. It's for a specific type of person. It can be extremely stressful, but highly rewarding. if you build up, and you can scale the business as well. So candidate wise, you want to be targeting on temporary side. Local agencies tend to do way better. You can recruit anywhere you want in theory, but stick to local and branch out, I would say. So if you're in London, stick to London. If you're in Birmingham, stick to East Birmingham, or that kind of thing. And for the hourly roles, yeah, so the warehouse workers, construction workers, look on Indeed, post their salary. That's probably the best way. For the contract roles, look at Indeed. Now, most people will have, um, I'm a temporary project manager on a contract on their LinkedIn. That means number one, when their contract finishes, yeah, I'm on a 6-month contract and they've got dates. That person's probably going to be looking for a role. Now, the other thing is that client uses contractors. So it's a very transparent, without them trying to be transparent, sector. So you can call the client, pitch in a candidate, or you can find two people that are close together, yeah, that are contract end at the same time and swap them over. That does work at times. But candidates, what you want to do is if someone says to you, hey, look, I'm interested, you've just applied for a job, you have a chat with them, get them signed up. You haven't got anything for them. Just get them signed up so they can start working when you do. I'm going to send you over the details, blah, blah, blah. They'll sign up, fill in the details, and then, they'll send over their DBS, for example. And you'll literally be like, okay, I've got a candidate ready to work. Let's call some companies. Let's email some companies and see what happens. That's probably the best way to go about it with candidates. And again, source from the CV. Always look at the CV. If they're doing temporary work, that client uses temporary agencies. That's all you have to do. Don't do it the wrong way. Do it the right way. Don't what these cheesy recruiters do is they try and fish the information from the candidate. And it's so dishonest. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows the trick. There's still agencies training their staff to do that. I think it's just wrong. But go back to that. Literally, if on the CV it says I'm doing a temporary work, don't ask them who the manager is. Just go on LinkedIn and find it. You don't look like an idiot then. When they say, oh, I can't give that information, you just look like you're just a money-hungry recruiter who can't be trusted. And as you grow and progress, the database is going to be your most important thing. I've got 60 registered candidates ready to work in this local area at any time. If all I need is one job and I've got that placement, basically. Also, 9 times out of 10, there's not even an interview sometimes. It's we need someone Saturday, go in and they work. And that's the beauty of it. So they got the job, is you just need to secure the client and the candidate. And you need to work with candidates on the flip side as well. I always say LMH, which is find out what their location is, where they're willing to work. Find out how much money they want. Honestly, ask them, like, if I call you about this, are you going to say you're not interested? What do you want? And if they say too high, just say, look, there's never going to be a role like that. What realistically would you work for? And find out their hours, times. Note it down, have a database, and move it on from there. That's probably the best way. Candidates can give you a lot of information. Some candidates will just work with you forever, basically, as well. So it's temp agency is good. But to wrap it up, if you want to book a consultancy call with me, full disclosure, I do very little temp, maybe 5%, 10%, and I try to stay on the contract or temp to perm side, but I can help you running an agency with that as well. So if you've got any questions, comment below or book a consultation with me on cadsmoney.com.